welcome back. We are in session 2 of day 7 of the Get Set Parent Children's Literature, Art and Music Festival in association with Vishwarang. So now we're going to do something really fun. We're going to meet Mr. Ashok Rajgopalan. So all our little toddlers out there have definitely heard of the gentle elephant called Gajapati Kulapati. So he has written 4 very exciting books. So I think Ashok is one of the most audio-visual writers we have out there in the children's space. And I'm going to be speaking to him about how does he come up with these really funny sounds, kalabalush, kulich bulich, plish, closh, plosh. His books are full of sound effects. So we'll understand the story behind that. But before that, he's going to make all of us laugh as he reads out his stories from Gajapati Kulapati. Let's go and hear him.
Hi kids, this is Ashok. Hi. Hi. This is Ashok Rajagopal. I wrote and drew pictures for the series of books often about an elephant called Gajapati Kulapati. There are 4 books. 1, 2, 3, and 4. The noisiest book is the first one. So I'll read out this story to you. Everybody fine with that?
Yes.
Thank you. This story is just called simply Gajapati Kulapati. Gajapati Kulapati was a big elephant. Gajapati Kulapati was a You must have seen a lot of elephants. Some elephants are gentle, some are nice, some are angry elephants. But Gajapati Kulapati was a big and gentle elephant. See, you can see they are all patting him, they are playing with him. This girl is using his trunk like a swing. So he is a very friendly elephant. Okay, now the story. One night it rained and Gajapati Kulapati got wet. Gajapati Kulapati caught a cold. Small noses catch small colds. Noses like yours catch small colds. Uncle has a medium nose, so I catch a medium cold. Small noses catch small colds. Big noses catch big colds. Gajapati Kulapati had a big nose, and so he caught a big cold. So, every morning the banana seller will come to Gajapati Kulapati and give him some bananas to eat. So, next day, when the banana seller asked Gajapati Kulapati, "You want some bananas?" Gajapati Kulapati opened his mouth and said, "Achoo!" Whoosh! The banana flew from the banana seller's hand. Pajak! They fell on the postman's head. You don't like bananas falling in your head, no? Pajak, pajak, pajak. The postman didn't like it. And after it fell pajak on the postman's head, Tamal, he fell on a cow. Umba! The cow ran with her tail in the air. Hello, I'm back. Gajapati Kulapati felt very sad. Gajapati Kulapati didn't like to hurt his friends. Gajapati Kulapati opened his mouth to say sorry. What happened when he said sorry? Achoo! The banana seller ran as fast as he could. The postman ran as fast as he could. The cow ran as fast after Shikul. Kulapati felt very sad. Gajapati Kulapati didn't want to hurt his friends. So Gajapati Kulapati hid behind a wall and there he stayed all day. He didn't know what to do. If he says sorry, only one big Achu is coming and it's causing lots of problems to people, lots of damage. So he didn't know what to do. So he went and stayed behind a wall the whole day. Everybody in the village now knew about Gajapati Kulapati's cold. You know, if you have a cold, you have a small nose, you catch a small cold. Everybody in the house will know you have a cold. So everybody in the house will know you have a cold. Uncle has a medium nose. So uncle goes, achoo, achoo. Even the neighbors know I have a cold. Gajapati Kulapati had a big nose and he caught a big cold. So he goes, achoo. So the entire village, the whole village knew about Gajapati Kulapati's cold. Gajapati Kulapati has a cold, said the banana seller to the milkman. Gajapati Kulapati has a cold, said the milkman to the tailor. Gajapati Kulapati has a cold, said the tailor to the flower seller. This auntie is a flower seller. Gajapati Kulapati has a cold, said the flower seller to the postman. I know Gajapati Kulapati has a cold, said the postman. He is very angry. He still had pachak bananas in his head. That night, a loud noise woke everyone up. Was it a dog? It got louder. Was it a lion? And louder. Was it thunder? And louder. Was the sky falling down? You know what it was, don't you? It was the biggest sneeze anyone had ever heard. It was Gajapati Kulapati. So usually this big sneeze when we do, by myself I can do a big achu, but usually I need your help. So everybody here together, let's make a big sneeze. Okay? That was the biggest sneeze anyone had ever heard in their lives. Everyone shook their heads and went back to sleep. But with that sneeze, Gajapati Kulapati's cold had disappeared. Next morning, he came out bright and cheerful. Everyone gathered round to pat him. Can you hug an elephant? You can't hug an elephant, but you can pat an elephant. So everybody gathered round to pat Gajapati Kulapati. Then a wise old grandmother said, grandmothers are very wise. They are wiser than our mothers. So we have to listen to grandmothers. A wise old grandmother said, let's build him a house so he doesn't get wet in the rain again. So here's our big achu, and then this is the house they built. It was a house bigger than Gajapati Kulapati. So the banana seller, milkman, tailor, flower seller, postman and grandmother built a house for Gajapati Kulapati. Gajapati Kulapati was the happiest elephant in the world. From that day, people heard all kinds of sneezes. From that day, people heard but they never heard. Let's do it once more. I'm so tired. Thank you. Fourth book. This is a brand new book. It came out only a few months ago. So this is the newest book in the Gajapati Kulapati series, and it's about playing in the mud. Gajapati Kulapati Kalicha Kulicha. What is the sound Kalicha Kulicha? We'll find out. Gajapati Kulapati was a big elephant. He lived in a small village with his friends. There's so many friends. Some of them you know, the banana seller, the one with the umbrella is the teacher. So he lived, you can also see the cows. He lived in a small village with his friends. One night, it rained. Just like last time, it rained. The ground was wet. The trees were wet. But Gajapati Kulapati was not wet. You know why. He was safe and dry in his big house. See, otherwise everything is wet. Trees are wet. The banana seller is wet. The teacher is wet. The ground is wet. But Gajapati Kulapati was safe and dry in his big house, which all these villagers built for him. In the morning, it stopped raining, but the ground was wet and muddy. After the rain, how the ground will be? It will be wet and muddy. School will be closed today, said the teacher. What do children say when teacher says school will be closed today? Yes, said the children.
Yeah.
Said the cow. They all ran out to play. Kulich bulich is the sound you make when you go on wet mud and you go and play in the wet mud. Kulich, kulich. So the children went out to play in the mud with the cow. Cow said, Umba. This time it's a happy Umba. Gajapati Kulapati is watching them. They're all having fun in the mud. Kalicha, Kulicha. Gajapati Kulapati danced in the mud. Kalicha, Kulicha. He is dancing in the mud. He's so happy. Kalichalu. He even rolled over in the mud. A happy elephant, he liked to roll in the mud, so he rolled over in the mud. Kalichalut. Soon, the children, the cow, and Gajapati Kulapati are covered in mud. Like that. They're all covered in mud. If big people see you covered in mud, what will they say? All of you need a bath, said the grandmother. Go to the pond, said the teacher. That's what big people say when they see you dirty. Come, Gajapati, said the banana seller. I'll give you a bath. You know, this now Gajapati Kulapati was feeling cold. Gajapati Kulapati did not want a bath. He ran away. He is running away. Where is Gajapati Kulapati after banana seller? He had run away. Sometimes, even I have done that as a child. When you don't want a bath, you run away. Even when we have dogs, you know, when they don't want a bath, they run away. So we'll have to chase them and make them take a bath. So they went chasing after Gajapati Kulapati. There, said the teacher, hiding behind the wall. When they went to the wall, Gajapati Kulapati ran away again. Where is Gajapati Kulapati? Asked the grandmother. There, said the teacher, hiding behind the tree. Can an elephant hide behind a small tree? But he tried, but they saw him. There, said the teacher, hiding behind the tree. When they went to the tree, Gajapati Kulapati ran away again. Where is Gajapati Kulapati? Asked the banana seller. Where is Gajapati Kulapati? Asked the teacher. Where is Gajapati Kulapati? Asked the grandmother. Where is Gajapati Kulapati? Asked the children who were sitting on a rock in the pond. So nobody knew where Gajapati Kulapati was. Then suddenly, glubuk, glubuk, the rock moved. It was Gajapati Kulapati hiding in the pond. That rock was actually this elephant. It was Gajapati Kulapati. They were sitting on Gajapati Kulapati without knowing. They thought it was a rock. He was hiding in the pond. Only a stop was seen, above the water. So they thought it was a rock. Guru! The children fell into the water like a sliding boat. They were not hurt. They just slid into the water. Guru! 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 That is the sound of an elephant coming out of water. Glue, glue. Gajapati Kulapati came out of the water. Now Gajapati Kulapati did not need a bath. He was not muddy anymore because he was in the water. So happily he came out of the pond. So that is the second story.
Yes.
Clap. Kids also deserve a clap.
Great. So you kids want one more story from Ashok uncle or not?
Yes. Yes.
Ah,
Yes.
yes. You want one more story?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, which do you want? Blue or red?
The red one.
Okay. This book, this was the third book I wrote and drew the pictures for. This is the third Gajapati Kulapati book. It's called Gurburum. What Gurburum is, we'll find out. This is about food and eating. Gajapati Kulapati, Gurburum or Gurburum. You can say what you want, as long as you make a lot of noise. Gajapati Kulapati was a gentle elephant. He was friends with everybody and everybody was Gajapati Kulapati's friend. See, they were even playing hide and seek on him, I think. No, not in this picture. They're all sitting on top of him and then they're patting him and they're all gathered around him. He was everybody's friend. One morning, the banana seller gave Gajapati Kulapati 10 bunches of bananas to eat. Can you eat 10 bunches of banana in one morning? But Gajapati Kulapati can. So he ate them. Mum. He's eating 10 bunches of banana. Then the farmer gave Gajapati Kulapati a bundle of sugarcane. Can you eat a bundle of sugarcane by yourself? Can you eat one sugarcane by yourself? Can you eat a bundle of sugarcane after eating 10 bunches of bananas? But Gajapati Kulapati can. So he ate the 10 bundles of, a bundle of sugarcane. Mum. Then the postman brought him coconuts. He ate the coconuts too. Mum. The children gave him lots of jaggery. So sweet. Mum. The flower seller fed him a big ball of rice. Okay. He ate all these things. So after some time, Gajapati Kulapati had a big stomach ache. He had a big stomach, but I think he ate too much food, so he had a big stomach ache. Garbo, said Gajapati Kulapati's stomach. Oh, said Gajapati Kulapati. Stomach was hurting him. The cow came to see her friend. If somebody is not well, their friends go to see that person. So Gajapati Kulapati was not well, he had a stomach pain. So the cow came over to see her friend. And she asked, Umba. She asked Gajapati Kulapati, Umba, means what happened to you? How are you? Are you all right? Gajapati Kulapati cried, oh, oh, oh. So it hurt him. The farmer, the banana seller, the flower seller, the postman, and the children, they came to see Gajapati Kulapati. They felt very sad to see that big friend in pain. So they came over to see how he was and they kept patting him. And some of them were also sad. They're sad at seeing him in such pain. Gajapati Kulapati has a stomach ache, said the children. Sometimes children say, even I used to say, for stomach pain, I used to say, stomach ache. Gajapati Kulapati has a stomach ache, said the children. Take him to the doctor, said the farmer. Who will carry him there? Asked the flower seller. How will they? If you are not well, somebody will carry you to the doctor. Can you carry an elephant to the doctor? So who will carry him there? Asked the flower seller. I'll bring the doctor here, said the postman. So I went to call the doctor. You know, mothers have some tricks. Like all mothers, the cow would tickle her babies when they were sad. With her tail, she used to tickle her baby, the cow. So now she tickled Gajapati Kulapati with her tail. Tickly gilly gilly. Tickling Gajapati Kulapati. Gajapati Kulapati smiled. When you are tickled, what do? You smile and you laugh. So he smiled. Then the children tickled him. Kicha, kicha, kicha. So Gajapati Kulapati went, hee. Kicha, 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 kicha. Gajapati Kulapati laughed a little. Then everybody else began to tickle him. Tickly, gilly, kichi, 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 kichi. See, everybody began tickling him. Gajapati Kulapati laughed a big laugh. Garboom! A sound like thunder frightened everybody away. That was Gajapati Kulapati. His stomach ache too had gone away. With that big noise which came from his behind, his stomach ache went. When the doctor came, the people of the village were tickling each other and laughing. So everybody is all right. Nothing wrong with Gajapati Kulapati also. That is the Gajapati Kulapati Garbaroom story. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you, children. Clap for you too for listening to the story.
Wow, Mr. Ashok, that was fantastic. The children actually, had such a great time listening to you. And as parents, all of us try to read these books to our kids every night, but it's such a treat to listen to it from the author himself. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. for doing all that. Well, thank you, moms, for reading this out to your children every day. Poor moms.
In fact, I see you've dedicated most of your books to moms. All your books are dedicated to mothers.
Look, I think one book was dedicated to my mother.
Huh.
The recent book is dedicated to all mothers.
Yeah, that is so beautiful. So welcome, sir, onto the Get Set Parent Children's Literature, Art and Music Festival in association with Vishwaram. And, you know, when we were looking at the list of authors to invite onto our children's festival, we were like, who better than the author of Gajapati Kulapati? My God, your reputation precedes you. Absolutely a pleasure.
People say I'm humbled, you know, but I'm really very proud. I never expected Gajapati Kulapati to be.
So you've written, you know, hundreds of books over so many years. And with Gajapati Kulapati, it was something else, right? Was it a very, it was a turning point for you in your writing career, in a way?
Not at all. You know, Gajapati Kulapati, I just wrote for a storytelling session in an exclusive children's bookstore.
Huh.
So it was a fun thing I wrote. It wasn't meant to be a book. It was only. Why all those loud noises? Because it was supposed to be an oral story told to a gathering of children.
Yeah, yeah.
But that made it popular with storytellers. No, tell this story. It was written. And then 10 years later, the publishers decided to make a book out of it.
Really? So
2010, the first Gajapati Kulapati book came out. And then everybody loved the elephant. So then they asked me to write another book, and I so there are 4 books so far.
Oh, really? It's a 10-year saga. Gajapati Kulapati was born somewhere in 2000, actually, then. That's something I didn't know.
A good writer can write one picture book in a day, actually. But after everybody loved the, I mean, I'm just saying how much time it would take to actually write. Ideas are a different thing. And writing one line and putting everything into that one line and allowing for the illustrator to take it to another dimension, all that has to be considered. So actually, practically speaking, an engineer would say it shouldn't take you a day to write a picture book. But the first book was so loved, and they asked me to write the second book, I was afraid. You know how movie sequels or any sequels, except Harry Potter.
There's an added pressure of the sequel.
That is like added pressure. No, people shouldn't complain. It wasn't as good as the first, but it was the best. It's not as good, but okay. I don't want the kids feeling like that.
Yeah.
So the first book took me about half an hour to 1 hour to write because there was no pressure. I just sat and wrote a fun story. The second book took me a week or 2. I don't remember exactly. I think it took me. Third book took me months. Fourth book took me 2 years to get a proper idea.
Oh my God. Amazing. But for me as a reader, as a parent reader to the child, for me all 4 books, I don't even know which is the first and the second or the third or the fourth. They're all to me equally captivating. So kids, that's a little bit of trivia for you, you know, from the author. You know, when you read the books every night, you can see the toil that the writer actually takes to create, you know, what he wants you to feel.
I didn't suffer. It was fun. It's a fun job, writing and drawing. But I was looking for a good idea for each book. Once you get the idea, all the funny bits, all that will come naturally to me. I mean, but I needed the idea. People tell me all kinds of ideas. Why don't you have? The tickling was actually another friend said. Why don't you have them tickling the Gajapati Kulapati? But I need a story, no? So thinking of that story, that took time. It took me that took me like some months actually to get the actual story. Once I have the writing is only a day's work. I'll do it in a day. And then it will go back and forth from editor. They'll like something, won't like something.
Yeah, yeah. So for me, when I read your series, you know what stands out to me? Gadam gadam, gudum gudum, kulich bulich, kalush balush, puchak kuchak, glubuk glubuk, all the noises, all the sounds. Yours is truly an audiobook, you know. It's got so many amazing sounds, and the kids, I mean, even when we do it at home, they find it so hilarious. So was there a conscious thought, Mr. Ashok, to get the sound effects through in the entire series? Because that's such a highlight.
The reason was because it was supposed to be told orally to a gathering of children.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the storytellers they narrated a story, and then they made the mistake of asking the children, "How did you like the story?" And the one child said, "Boring."
Oh my God.
To be honest,
they're brutal.
I was afraid of that kind of a reaction. So, children like to make noises. I still like to make noises, but they are forbidden to make noise. Most of the time, it's children making noise, and big people quiet. We are talking here. We can't jam on the phone. This is the library, or this is a classroom.
True.
But they like to make noise. You give them any toy or something which makes a lot of noise, they'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
So at least in the Gajapati Kulapati books, let them make a lot of noise. No, so it was deliberate inclusion of all these noises. For truth's sake, the first book had only the Achu in it. The Pachak and Damas were added by the editor, Tulika.
Okay.
Menon was the editor. If you look at the first book, I would have dedicated it to her because for truth's sake, I wanted to attribute it, give credit to the person. And then the second and third book, I added my own song. So Pachak and Damal was hers.
I see.
So found that like to make those noises, and the books could have been a hit because they made those songs. We don't know because they love elephants. So all those songs were deliberately put. So let the kids have fun making all those noises.
So you are an author illustrator. I mean, you've illustrated all of these as well on your own.
Yes, I was an illustrator first. For more than 30 years, I've been illustrator. Writer only later.
So it's a chicken and egg. So illustrator came first, and then the author was born after that.
300 books are not like 300 picture books. It includes issues. There was there's a magazine called Chatterbox I worked for. Then there were 2 Singaporean magazines called Quest and Junior Quest for older children. And then there was Hoot and Toot by Hash, which ran for 4 years. So I contributed to. So each magazine will be like one ran for 2 years, the other was for 4 years. So 4 into 12. For all these issues, I would have illustrated. So that, it's more than 300. I lost track after 300. So that's all.
That is such a feat. That is amazing. That's absolutely amazing.
There for a long time doing one job, you will naturally do a lot.
Yeah. No, you're very modest, Mr. Ashok. But doing a job every day and doing a creative job with so much creative output, which is enthralling audience for years is quite something.
There is something about it. I was creative when I wrote the first Gajapati story. I was not truly creative when I wrote the fourth. It's very creative. It's the same character. I just made a new story up.
Yeah.
Yeah, very creative. Every night they'll come up with. You must also. Yeah. So actually, the truly creative people are those who reinvent themselves. So I'm trying to do that as well. Otherwise, I'll be known only for Gajapati.
No, but another thing which I found in all your stories, not just the Gajpati Kulpati series, but all your other series, your influences are very local, right? You use characters from villages and small towns. You've got the Pati Amma and the school teacher looking like, she's coming out from a small village school. Is this your childhood in a way being captured, or do you consciously try to create the very Indian, local, small village kind of scenes in your stories?
Yeah. A great question, by the way, and requires a very thoughtful answer. To answer the middle part of your question, it's part of my childhood because I was born in a small cottage in a very a very small village without electricity. Like on the floor, I was born.
What is it called? Which village is this?
It's called Pulaseri. Pula means dawn, actually.
Huh.
Dawn, not Amitabh Bachchan. Dawn.
Yeah.
It's a very small hamlet in Palghat, Kerala. But my father was here. So when it was
In
time
Chennai.
for me to have a baby, I went here. My both parents were from the villages, but my father came to Chennai because my grandfather had come to Chennai. So, and for our annual vacations, we didn't go to these major tourist spots. We went to my grandmother's village and to the same house and my other grandmother's village. So I first hated the village. There was no electricity. So you had to go out to the pond or the river. One grandmother had a village with a pond, the other one the river. So that's why you had to no privacy, not what you're used to in the city. And then we didn't have TV or we had one big telephone in the next house, but we didn't have all those things. But I missed. I hated the village. Then afterwards, somewhere when I was 10, I loved the place so much. I wanted to do the rest of my schooling in Kerala. It's very tough here, so apparently easy there. Like that. That is one reason why you find all the
early influences. Yeah.
There are three reasons. The second reason was, as a child, I thought books from the West were superior to Indian books. And we had many in our library. There were fewer Indian books as well. So only the occasional Swami and Friends, and then we had these magazines. We had Children's World.
The Amachitra Kathas and the Tinkles came in a little later, but they were also there. I mean, for a lot of us growing up, those were the primary childhood reads that we had.
Enid Blyton was supposed to be.
Enid Blyton, yeah. Non-Indian again, yeah.
How much has she written? I haven't finished reading all the Blyton.
Series and series.
Yeah, amazing. No, she is definitely a superior writer. But thinking that a story set in England, for example, is superior to a story set in India. No? That is what I used to think as a child. Because somewhere it was there. Like movies, fashion. Even now we wear Western clothes. So it's like they are superior. So that was that. And books in India, we couldn't afford to print, have good quality books then. But now we are on par. Our books are of good quality, technically and content and everything, good quality. And so that was like a deliberate thing. And this Indianness about the pictures. And Tulika Publishers, the third reason, they do their books that way, very Indian books.
Yeah.
And before we used to, when we drew people, we used to draw them all fair. I think we use the pink or I don't know what color in a crayon set for drawing children. So no, but now we can proudly do brown.
Mm, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so I mean, I really there's so many people to thank for changing the scenario of children's literature in India, right? So earlier we've all grown up, and in fact even one generation earlier it was all about the fairy tales, or it was about the foreign stories, and predominantly British set. But since the beginning of this festival, we're coming to the end of the festival, so speaking to people like Ruskin Bond and Nandini Nair and Priya and yourself. Tomorrow we're speaking to Mr. Anand Neelkantan. We're speaking to Rohini Neelekani. These are fantastic authors.
I'm a fan. I've read all his books.
Wonderful. So they've actually put Indian writing on the map, whether it is, the city stories, whether it's the village stories, whether it is mythology, and our amazing publishers for bringing children's literature into the spotlight. It's been such an amazing journey, and I think about a decade and a half, all of this in the last 15 years, we've seen all this change coming in, and you're a part of that amazing transformation.
I'm very grateful to be a part of that.
Absolutely.
And actually, parents also, we have to thank the parents because parents then never used to spend so much on, they would spend on textbooks, but not.
Right.
So now, but now parents are buying, when they do that, no, it's the business of publishing grows and the publishers can afford to have
Absolutely.
publishing.
No, I think with the change in generation, the awareness levels of the parents have also changed. The exposure, media has also contributed in a large way. So all of this has, changed the perception. And I think early reading skills, we've been talking about that the whole week, dear parents. There are writers writing for toddlers, 1-year-old children, 2-year-old children, and, writers like yourself, the very young children, 4 to 5 years. So, Mr. Ashok, how do you get into the minds of the children? What's your process? You're a writer, you're an illustrator, you're a very deep thinker for having, to kind of try to crack what works with children. So can you take us through a little bit of your process? Is it the pictures which come into your mind first, or is it the story, or is it parallel? How does it work for you?
If I can answer, the pictures come into my mind first. I mean, it's a movie.
You're a visual thinker.
Yeah, with sounds, and I don't know how it works with just words coming. When I think of something abstract, for example, if I'm discussing spirituality or something cosmic, then probably words would come first. Or we are discussing language, then words would come. When I'm writing a story, that's fiction, I always think like a movie, you think of pictures with sounds that comes into my head. So that I can answer. How to write, once someone asked me to write a piece on how to get that voice right when you're speaking to children of specific ages. Mostly by instinct, but I think everybody can do that, and we are doing it. When we meet people of various ages and various interests and various occupations, we speak to each person differently. I mean, unless you want to be a bore, no, you don't want to be bored, then we just speak whatever. But I think unconsciously and consciously, when we speak to someone, we accommodate that person, and so for that relationship, we speak in a different way than we would speak to somebody else. It's not manipulation. It's it's actually a very friendly thing. So we do that even unconsciously. Suppose they don't understand. If they don't understand Tamil, I have to speak in Malayalam. Or if they don't understand Malayalam, I have to speak in English. Like that. When you're speaking to a child, you're not necessarily dumbing down, but you're speaking to the child in his or her language. You speak to a kindergarten child in a certain way. I don't mean, how are you children? And pat them on be obedient to your parents and study well. Not that patronizing thing. I don't mean that. I mean, even if when you talk to them as equals, they are in a world.
Yes.
For example, they are in the world looking up at big people, seeing the nostrils and the under.
Not a pleasant view.
Much closer, the ground is closer. That's why they get dirtier. They're closer to the ground than we are. That's why they get the sand and mud in the hair. Poor thing.
Yeah.
So that is different. Not just visually, in everything that angle is different. So we need to understand that and we speak
Yeah.
to them with that voice. It's not dumbing down. It's just getting into their world and playing with the child. So when you write also, you do that. So writing to a child who's 10 or 12, so they know more, different things. You can allude.
They have more frame of references compared to a toddler. So you need to keep regulating those references as well.
If they have had science, you can actually make jokes about something in physics if the child is older, which you can't do in a kindergarten.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
and another answer to that is, I think writers and illustrators in children's publishing, they have retained the part of the child in them. No, they keep that part.
Innocence and childlikeness.
Yeah, you need to keep a bit of that, and you also it's good if you have a good memory of your childhood. I think those are the people who actually come into this business.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they don't think about it as coming into a career or a business. They just do it for the passion, I guess. Because all of you, when I look at you, you are just meant to be doing that. It really looks like you were born to talk to children and engage with them and, get into their world. And, I don't think you really look at it as a business, right? I mean, this is what I felt speaking to so many of the kids' authors.
We are like we are like dropouts. We dropped out of regular work and we are just playing in the playground.
Yeah, absolutely. So Mr. Ashok, we have a lot of parents here, so they've been with us during this whole festival. Get Set Parent is a YouTube channel which deals with parenting-based issues and parenting advice and all of that. So what are those 2-3 things you would like to tell our parents? They have children at home. First of all, these poor kids have been locked in from March. They're all sitting at home. There's so much of this, tech, the tech influence which has come in. It's a boon as well. They're all able to talk to you easily and without you having to move out of home. But still, any word of advice for parents on how to treat children during the lockdown and, maybe just bringing up children, as lovers of reading books or anything which you would like to share with them?
I don't know. I wouldn't dare advise parents. No, poor things. Now, parenting is a very, nobody knows what to do. We try to be good parents. We can't even dream of being perfect parents. At least we try to be parents and we don't know if we succeeded or not. Nobody thinks we are very insecure about that. And the children will anyway grow up to say something ungrateful. So we have to be ready. Only after they become parents they realize how.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's worth. The whole thing is worthwhile. Anyway, but I wouldn't dare advise them. I think you have to play it by the ear, by trusting.
Yeah.
The parents are also having a tougher time than the children. So,
yeah.
But and they feel bad that the childhood is totally lost, indoors and not. I don't know. I think it's a good thing for children also in a way. A child naturally is. It's not natural for a child to stay silent for a period of time and to sit in one place. The poor child is being treated like a king or a queen in the house and suddenly finds itself in school. But it's asked to stay in one place. But I think overall it's good because the world doesn't always go your way. So, and actually because I hated school, well, it meant curtailing of freedom. So that could be one reason why I'm on my own doing this in some work.
Yeah.
Could be. But later on, I thought maybe it's a good thing. These difficulties are good. Because the world isn't totally always a fun place. You have to.
Yeah. No, and I think everybody from parents to kids to teachers, everybody is just adapting to the situation. And in a way, I think, what you mentioned, it's good for kids in a way that, they were so used to traveling the whole day, getting to school, getting back home, classes. A little bit of that humdrum has been broken for sure.
I have twins, neighbors, they have twins, two girls. They're quite happy that they don't have to.
Oh, yeah.
They miss their friends, and occasionally in these, they see their friends or the phone or laptop.
Yeah.
They miss them, but overall, they don't look miserable.
Right. No, I think kids are enjoying this a little, again, enjoyment in a very different style. They're having to create their own experiences because they don't have the usual sources of entertainment. There are no movie theaters, there are no, parks to a large extent. Travel has been cut down. So I think they're being forced to get creative and spend time, with their art and craft or their books or all of that.
At the risk of
go for it.
That of people not buying a particular again. I'm saying this for honesty's sake. You don't, if you don't give books to your child or give them very few books, they'll write their own stories. Isaac Asimov couldn't afford to buy books, so that's why he started writing stories, so he could read them for you. If you don't buy books to your child, they'll perfectly manage with the vessels or the broken things then that imagination works.
Yes.
So it's a good thing for you. They don't always have to read books. You can have off time from books also.
Yeah.
They can do that. And children want to imitate what they like.
Yeah.
Like they imitate. You see most of us dressed up as teachers, and so they like some. They imitate. That's how I learned to draw and write. So sometimes it's a good idea to give them time away from. But why books are a great boon now? Because actually books will, like you said, creating their own world and all that. Books, half the work the reader does. They create their own world. A book is never complete till somebody reads it. Writer does half the work, the reader feels it.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's very well said.
At least that way. For a movie, your brain is not working in the movie. When you have a book, like a picture book, you have pictures and text. You don't imagine the picture. But later on, you grow up to read chapter books with minimal pictures or no pictures. You imagine something.
Right.
You don't imagine. But a comic is better than a movie. Movie doesn't work at all. You only probably anticipate what's good, and that's also doesn't require much brain work.
True.
So at least off time from TV and from TV, books are great. And now and then you can have off time from books too.
Yeah. No, I remember growing up being told that the classics are the best. If not classics, read the abridged classics. If not the abridged, read the comics. If not the comics, okay, then you watch the TV, So that's the dilution of a particular book or a movie. Like the worst was called watching the movie and the best was called reading the original thought of the author. So so today we have many more intermediate layers, but I think and I really want to reiterate the point that you brought out, to all our parents, that it's okay for children to be bored, and we don't have to fill up every hour of the day because boredom is that first step towards creativity. When they don't really find enough to do, they probably will come up with, amazing creations. It could be in art, it could be, creation of something in the garden with flowers and twigs and stones. It could be, writing a story. It could be telling a story. So you just never know in which direction kids will go if you let them be bored.
I was never bored as a child. I think a child has no business being bored.
Mm.
They learn that from adults. A child is never bored. Uh, babies, babies don't know anything. They don't know to read or write or speak, but they're never bored.
Yeah.
They learn from big people. This bored, this word. Now they're learning even stress from big people.
No, but Mr. Ashok, today you look at the children from the age of 6, they'll be like, Mama, I'm bored. I'm bored. It's such a common word. Parents are so tired of hearing about kids being bored.
What does mama do when the child is I'm bored? The mama has to do something to give the eat, to play or watch. No, that is why the child is saying I'm bored. Because the child is used to that kind of a thing. The child has no business being bored. Even an adult has no business being bored. What happened is our pleasure, we gave that to an external source. Okay, if I'm happy. If I eat this, I'm happy. If I watch this, I'm happy. If I read this. Whereas pleasure is actually from inside. So it should come from me here. A child actually knows this. Big people doing that. The child will have you just need some sand. You just put the child in sand or mud. Child will have a perfectly all right time. The child will create. Source of happiness will come from inside, not from the.
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely, I think you've got us thinking on a lot of angles and a lot of, again, I think, somewhere your upbringing with ponds and rivers and all of this, I can just imagine that, having a world of outdoors can be so liberating in a way and, take you in so many different angles.
Small thing, a footnote I have to add to that. I was a very indoors kind of a child. But luckily I was forced to go outside. So I was perfectly happy in Chennai reading books and drawing pictures or writing. But my father forced me this annual vacation. That's why I hated the village in the first place. I had some paper and I was allowed a book or something was bought. I think it was an Amar Chitra comic in the Higginbotham, the railway station. Sometimes a book was given me. But otherwise, and I had all these cousins, so we went out. So that way I was lucky that.
So you truly embody, what you said of finding happiness within you. Found it and you were happy within it.
So it was good that I wasn't given that freedom to do whatever I want. It was good that somebody forced me to go to the village and go outside.
Yeah. No, that's lovely. So before we conclude, Mr. Ashok, everybody's curious, what are you writing these days? And what can we expect next from Mr. Ashok Rajgopalan's treasure box?
Okay. May I advertise one book now?
Yes, sure.
Outside Gadabudi Kulpati. I want to be known for other books apart from my illustration. So this is Hasya.
Okay.
My recent book. This is a recent book which is being published. Sorry, the fourth Gajapati Kulapati was released.
So what age group is that for? This book looks like is it a picture book? What kind of book is it?
It's not a picture book. It's with a few illustrations.
Nice. Okay. It's a small chapter book with illustrations.
Yes. This was about 8 to 10.
8 to 10 years. All right.
And it's about the Devas and Asuras fighting.
Wow.
But suppose the Asuras don't want to fight. So they smell something fishy and they send a spy out to find out what's
Ah.
happening.
Wow,
And
sounds interesting.
thing is, how can an entire race be bad? No, how can all the devas be good and how the I remember even in our mythology we had good asuras. We had Prahalada, we had Mahabali. So there are so no, I'm not revealing anything about the book. But it's supposed to be. It's just my attempt to make readers laugh out loud. So even big people have liked that book. And then what
Amazing, amazing.
next is a series of 3 books published by Talking Cub.
Uh-huh.
Adventures of a little girl called Gulgul who lives in the far future and she goes and explores. So the 3 books where she goes to 3 different planets.
Very nice. And that's for what age group?
That is 6 to 8.
6 to 8.
Slightly below this book.
Ah, okay. Wow.
That's also
So parents, you can go and look for Haha Hasya and also the Gulgul series, which we will eagerly be waiting for.
of the year it'll be
Okay.
out by the end.
Okay, okay. Lovely. Thank you so much, Mr. Ashok. We had such a great time speaking with you. And, you know, you were one of the very, very important guests on our Get Set Parent Children's Literature, Art and Music Festival. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure and honor. Thank you very much.
Wow, that was such an interesting conversation that I have. So children, writing books is really, you know, more difficult than it seems, isn't it? And in fact, the younger the books you write, children you're writing for, the harder it seems to get the plot in place. But we've learned so much from so many amazing people over the last 7 days. So let's try and see how we can use that in our own lives. But now we have a very, very interesting theatre workshop. So, you know, this is a unique workshop that we're doing, and let's see how we can understand expressions, body language, and so much more by the workshop by Helen O'Grady International. So that's the next session coming up. So don't go anywhere, and let's get right into their workshop soon. Bye.